Last week, the Saskatoon Police Service concluded its search of the City of Saskatoon landfill following the recovery of human remains.
Tonight, the search for a missing Métis woman in Saskatoon has come to an end.
How much landslides and flooding do we need before we're going to change our approach? Time for action is now.
The latest on the landslide that has flooded the Farwell Canyon in the BC interior.
It starts with a storyboard, and from that storyboard we pick different Indigenous artists that we want to select and highlight.
And a preview of this year's First Nations Pavilion at Winnipeg's Folklorama Festival. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. After nearly 100 days of searching for a missing Métis woman, her family now has answers. Human remains were found at the Saskatoon City landfill belonging to Mackenzie Trottier, who was 22 years old when she went missing in 2020. Video journalist Rachel May has more.
Last week, the Saskatoon Police Service concluded its search of the City of Saskatoon landfill following the recovery of human remains.
After 93 days and sifting through 53 metric tons of trash, Mackenzie Trottier was identified. Trottier was last seen in December of 2020. Her last known location is believed to be in the 1300 block of Avenue B in Saskatoon. During the investigation, there was one suspect. However, Saskatoon Police Chief Cameron McBride says charges cannot be laid in Trottier's death.
Through our investigation, a suspect in Mackenzie's disappearance has been identified. However, before investigators could obtain the evidence required to prove their involvement, the suspect died in an unrelated incident.
The suspect died in 2023 from a drug overdose. The suspect and Mackenzie knew each other. However, their exact relationship is not publicly known.
An autopsy was conducted on August 1st and found that her cause of death is currently undetermined.
The Saskatchewan Coroner's Service is now handling the case. They are working to identify her cause of death. Mackenzie's father, Paul Trottier, expressed his gratefulness for the community's assistance and support during the investigation.
This is a difficult time, but our family wanted to take time to personally thank our community who supported us over the past 3.5 years. The past 93 days, in particular, have been difficult. But today, we have the answers we were searching for. Mackenzie is home. And thank you, everyone, for that. Thank you.
In a Facebook post, the family has requested privacy during this difficult time. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Now to the latest on the landslide and resulting flood within Farwell Canyon in British Columbia's interior. The dam created by the landslide has released the built-up water into the Chilcotin River and is now traveling down the Fraser River. Today, the Chilcotin National Government held a press conference sharing their fears of the landslide's lasting effects. Sab Jonza has that story.
Chief Joe Alphonse says a handful of cabins and historic structures were destroyed by the flooding. Now, their attention is on their people's traditional food source, sockeye salmon. Chief Alphonse says in 2019, only 15 to 20% of the salmon stock got to their spawning grounds in the area thanks to a different landslide. This year would have been the salmon's first spawning run since, and the chiefs worry how many more wild salmon from that reduced number will be blocked this time.
As far as we're concerned, the planet is screaming for Indigenous voices and values to be included. You know, how much forest do we have to lose every year due to fires? How much landslides and flooding do we need before we're going to change our approach? Time for action is now.
BC's Water Management Executive Director Connie Chapman says the channel made by the dam in the Chilcotin River was 15 meters wide in size. Chapman says the peak flows in the Chilcotin River were moving at 3,000 cubic meters per second. In comparison, the regular flow rate is around 300 cubic meters per second. As of this morning, water flows are between 500 to 1,000 cubic meters per second.
We continue to urge people to stay away from the Chilcotin River and the Fraser River down to Hope. Slopes and banks may be very unstable. The land may change very quickly, and it remains dangerous. Now that the water is flowing past the natural dam, there is a risk of further landslides both upstream and downstream of the dam. Yesterday, 2 BC emergency alerts were issued to alert people in the area to the risk of flooding and to urge them to evacuate immediately. We are prepared to issue more alerts should they be needed as the situation evolves.
The Chilcotin National Government will be meeting with provincial and federal ministers throughout the week to voice their concerns. Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
To northern Manitoba now, where Norway House Cree Nation cut the ribbon at their new health centre on Tuesday. The $157.9 million Kinisu Sipi Nanatawiwe Kamek Health Centre of Excellence will boost services in the community. At just under 9,500 square meters, the facility is being touted as the largest health centre in Manitoba history under First Nations control. Back in September 2018, the federal government dedicated $100 million to support its construction. Residents will now have access to services like emergency medicine, rehabilitation, therapy, and palliative care without having to travel far distances from their community. At the announcement in Norway House, federal, provincial, and First Nations leaders, including MKO Grand Chief Garrison Settee, expressed congratulations.
This is historic, and I'm very happy to be here. And this opens the door for anybody else to even attempt to try to follow this work that has been done here in Norway House, and we are very hard to be part of this. And I know that in the future, that there's going to be a lot of people from this nation that will work here. Norway House will have their own doctors working here. Norway House, where they have their own people working in diagnostics, nurses, healthcare aides, and even surgeons.
Canada's NDP leader is in the capital of the Northwest Territories today to speak about the party's plan to change the rules in Ottawa to lower grocery prices. APTN Charlotte Moore-Jacobs has more.
The New Democratic Party is touring the country to promote a likely platform for the upcoming federal election, tackling the rising cost of food.
Given that they're making record profits, if they don't reduce the price of food essentials, we will impose a price cap. This is something that's been done in other countries. It has effectively brought down the price of groceries for essentials.
NDP party leader Jagmeet Singh, along with NWT NDP candidate Kelvin Cochilia, are in Yellowknife, performing what they call a price check at a local grocery store.
So 3 items. We bought their President's Choice regular olive oil, $20 for this olive oil. We bought a bag of apples, and it's more than $1 per apple because this bag was $10. President's Choice apples again. That's their brand. And then we bought President's Choice peaches.
Over the last year, territorial food bank programs have reported an increase in demand. Cochilia, who's Clincho Dene, also is commenting on the cost of living.
Say a year and a half ago, for a family of 4, we were averaging around, say, like $200 a week. And now I feel like our grocery bill is around $350. And it all depends if I decide to take out meat, going for other brands that we typically were going before. And one key thing for me, it's you either eat your food as medicine or your medicine as food. So it's not fair to me or to my children or to my wife that we have to either go for products that are not really good for our consumption.
The NDP have been outspoken about the failings of Nutrition North, a federal subsidy intended to reduce grocery bills on essentials for customers. The Northwest Company, which operates Northmart and Northern stores, the biggest players in the game for NWT and Nunavut, is routinely accused of not passing on full subsidy to Northerners while collecting sky-high profits.
A sustainable solution for the North is to support local hunters that want to engage in their traditional way of getting food that's local and sustainable, but often don't have the means to do so. So if Nutrition North has an element of it that supported northern hunters to be able to provide food for their communities, that would be one way that's provided sustainable, healthy, local, traditional food. So that's one thing that we
Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
An Anishinaabe woman could become the first Indigenous woman governor in the United States. That story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. We go south of the Medicine Line now, where Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan could possibly become the state's governor, making her the first Indigenous female governor in the United States. Democratic U.S. presidential candidate Kamala Harris chose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her 2024 vice presidential running mate on Tuesday. If the Democratic Party wins the election this fall, or if Walz resigns, Flanagan would take his spot. Walz isn't on the ballot in Minnesota this fall, meaning he would have to wait until after the November election to step down. Flanagan is a Anishinaabe and a citizen of the White Earth Band of Ojibwe. She is the highest-ranking Indigenous woman serving in a statewide elected office, and the first to lead the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association. A newly published report by the Department of the Interior in the United States dives deeper into the history of Indian boarding schools. Over a 160-year period, efforts to assimilate Native Americans took place at more than 400 institutions. The report says nearly 1,000 children died while attending the boarding schools. Edgar Villanueva is an enrolled member of the Lumbee tribe and founder of Decolonizing Wealth Project, an Indigenous and Black-led racial justice organization dedicated to reparative philanthropy. He joins us now from New York City. Edgar, thanks for taking some time for us here today. What are some of the things that stand out for you from the Federal Indian Boarding School report?
I think this report is monumental. One, it is continuing the process to document and memorialize the history, the facts of what really has happened on American soil to Indigenous peoples and our children historically. This second report also codifies the data, giving more specific information about where boarding schools were and how many children and families were impacted. And the final point that's really, really exciting is there's a call for action. There are policy recommendations in this report. We are basically, telling the government what we want and need to move forward to begin a healing process. And so now we can organize around those demands to begin to see the truth and reconciliation come to pass.
Yeah, among the recommendations are an apology from the federal government, a national memorial to honor boarding school victims, and returning boarding school lands to local tribes where they were located. What do you make of those recommendations?
I think they're a good start. I mean, honestly, I think when I read them, when the report came out, I was really pleased with the recommendations. But I also felt like I was wanting more. I want to see reparations paid as well. So I think it's really important to return land. The apology is absolutely important. It's a spiritual act of acknowledging and taking ownership, but without action behind that apology, of course, it's not as powerful. So in addition to the policies in the report, I'm curious to understand what type of repayment can be made for the loss of life and the near genocide of our community and culture in this country.
I guess, Edgar, for yourself, did you pay much attention north of the Medicine Line to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission here and the apology?
Absolutely. I have paid attention to that. Of course, it's been a source of inspiration in a lot of ways, and we've also seen some of the complications and the challenges in implementing that, and are hoping that we learn some lessons from the process so that maybe we can have a smoother process here in the States.
Yeah, you know, the TRC released the 94 calls to action. Nearly 10 years later, most have not been addressed. You have an election also about to happen. How hopeful are you that these boarding school recommendations will be addressed?
I feel really hopeful in this moment. I think there has been a lot of progress in politics with Native leaders in various offices across the country, including, of course, Secretary Holland serving in the cabinet. I know that at least one candidate, Kamala Harris, is deeply committed and has been for a long time to issues in Indian country, and will support many of these, if not all of these recommendations through her leadership if elected. Honestly, if the election goes a different way and Donald Trump is elected, I am very fearful for Indigenous sovereignty, and he has already demonstrated racism and a lack of respect for our community through many things that he has said. So I'm hopeful. We're all organizing towards democracy and freedom. And so I think this report comes out at a perfect time where new leadership can come in that office and to take this work forward. And it's been amazing the way that Deb Haaland has championed this work and that the federal government has made these steps over the last years under the Biden administration.
I guess no matter the outcome, how do tribes, organizations like yourself keep the pressure on to ensure that some of these recommendations are implemented?
Thank you for asking that. I think that's the most important point to be made here. We have this report. There are demands that are written in paper, but they will not come to pass if people do not organize. We, as Native people, our allies, our friends, our relatives, joining with us to put that external pressure. This is why we launched a fund called the National Truth and Healing Fund at our organization, Decolonize the Wealth Project, to take philanthropic resources to support community organizations and Native leaders outside of government to organize and to apply pressure to do movement building work to ensure that we actually have a TRC in place and that all of the things that we want and need in that process come to pass. So the power of the people is really critical here. I'm thankful for the steps that have been made by the government, but these steps have all been made possible by leaders who have been very bold in their advocacy efforts.
Well, Edgar, we'll be watching from here. Appreciate you taking some time to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The world's longest running multicultural festival has kicked off in Winnipeg. We'll take you on a visit to the First Nations Pavilion after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And our regular contributor, Clarence Jones, shared this view of the sun casting rainbow colors across a wavy cloud formation as seen from Highway 16 in the Gitxsan Nation. Groovy stuff. Thanks as always, Clarence. We want to see your photos. Email share@aptn.ca. You could be featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 25 in Fredericton, showers, and 21 in Halifax. 7 with rain in Kuujjuaq, rain in Nain, and a high of 10. Sunny and 24 for Montreal and Val-d'Or. 25 in Sault Ste. Marie, 24 for North Bay and Ottawa. Showers and 23 for Thunder Bay, 19 with rain in Sioux Lookout. Rain and 15 for Thompson and God's Lake. Showers and 20 for Winnipeg, 17 with rain in Dauphin. 19 and showers in Regina, rain and 20 for North Battleford. 20 with rain in Meadow Lake, sun's out in 19 in Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, 25 in High Level, sunny, and 21 in Fort Chipewyan. 23 in showers in Edmonton, rain, and 20 in Lethbridge. Sunny and 25 for Vancouver, 32 in Kamloops. 26 in Prince George, 30 for Smithers. Sunny and 30 in Old Crow, 29 in Whitehorse. 21 in Yellowknife, 35 and sunny in Norman Wells. Sunny and 15 in Sax Harbor, 30 for Paulatuck. 17 in Chesterfield, sunny and 22 in Baker Lake. 10 in Resolute, 18 in Joe Haven. Folklorama, the world's longest running multicultural festival, kicked off in Winnipeg this week. And this year, the First Nations Pavilion is serving up great food, live performances, and learning opportunities. Reporter Sierra Bettens brings you to the festivities.
Every year, Winnipeg's Folklorama Festival showcases entertainment, cuisine, and traditions from nearly 40 different cultures. At the festival's First Nations Pavilion, visitors come for the bannock and stay for the unforgettable live performances. Each year, Pavilion coordinator Buffy Handel says they choose a different theme. This year, that theme is Every Child Matters.
The themes are always based off of what is happening in society. And so obviously throughout this entire year, there's been a lot of educational pieces and of course a lot of activities surrounding Every Child Matters. And so what we wanted to be able to do is just ensure that whether that is on an educational level or even on a cultural level or even just a community level, that we don't lose sight of what Every Child Matters actually means.
When visitors walk in, they're greeted by a miniature teepee village with interactive displays. At showtime, performers from the Aboriginal School of Dance take the stage, combining movement with storytelling. As Handel explains, a lot goes on behind the scenes.
It starts with a storyboard, and from that storyboard we pick different Indigenous artists that we want to select and highlight, and then from there we want to ensure that we're recording all of the voiceovers and everything just gets put together, and the dancers are actually training right throughout the year.
The pavilion is made possible with a labor of love from volunteers. Handel says many bank over 70 hours of work during festival week.
The empowering part about the Indigenous community is when we're coming together and being able to bring our own specific gifts forward is something that is just absolutely amazing, and sparks fly, and our audience and our visitors, they can tell that we're working cohesively and in harmony with one another.
Ahead of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th, Handel hopes visitors leave with a better understanding of the true meaning of Every Child Matters.
Every one of those children that never made it home, every child now, they matter to us, and they matter to us because it comes from a spiritual place.
Catch Folklorama's First Nations Pavilion from now through Saturday at the RBC Convention Centre in Winnipeg. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Sierra. Looks pretty great. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. Be sure to join us back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for your first look at the day's news. And for news anytime, you can always visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for joining us. Stick around for an encore presentation of Face to Face. Have a great night.